Hello everyone. Today we will see one slightly advanced model for determining prices of options. This can also be used for determining prices of other derivatives provided that we know the payoff at the end at the expiry time or maturity time. So even though I said it is slightly advanced, actually it is a fairly basic model. It is known as binomial tree model. As the name suggests, we assume only two possible outcomes for share prices. So what we know is price of an option, or for that matter price of any derivative, is based on the price of the underlying asset and expected movement of the price of the underlying asset. So normally if I know today's share price, which we denote by S naught, I don't know much about S capital T, that is share price at time capital T. So what we do in binomial tree model is we assume that there are only two possible values of share price at time t. So if this is the time scale 0 to t, then we assume that there are only two possibilities. One is the price goes up and other is price goes down, and up and down by what amount, that is also fixed. Then under this scenario we will try to derive price of the derivative or price of option. Okay, so because we are taking only two possibilities and it generates a tree like structure, this is known as binomial tree model. In fact, what we can do further is we can extend this. So it seems pretty restrictive to have just two possible options, two possible prices. So what we can do is this 0 to t period we can divide into multiple smaller intervals, and we can consider that at every time point there are two possibilities. So something like this, then this may be assumed common, then this, so it grows like a tree. Okay, so at every time point you have two possibilities, one up, one down. So it grows like a tree in a horizontal direction. Hence it is known as binomial tree model. Two choices, so binomial and tree, because it can grow like a tree if you consider multiple time intervals. Okay, so we will start with a very simple example, single step binomial tree, so only one possibility. So let me first start with a numerical example and then we would try to write it down in terms of general notation. Okay, so suppose we have to decide price of call option on a certain share, and current price of that share is say 20 rupees. Okay, and we assume that the possible values after at time period capital T are either 18 or 22. Okay, because one value has to go up, other value has to go down. So this is current value, which is 20, and the other possible values are 22 and 18. Okay, so in this scenario we will try to determine price of the option. Price of the call option means what? So strike price would be given to us. So let us assume that the strike price is say 21 rupees. Time period is T, same time to maturity. And suppose risk-free rate of interest is given as say 12% per annum. Okay. Then what should be the price of the call option today? Price means small c, the initial amount that you have to pay. Okay. So we will try to decide this. As always, for deriving any price we would assume no arbitrage opportunities are possible. So we would derive price under no arbitrage assumption. By the way, this S naught going to 22 or 18 can happen with probability Q and 1 minus Q. We don't have to assume that these are 50-50% chance. There are 50-50% chances. We'll say with probability Q it goes up, with probability 1 minus Q it goes down. Okay. Now, so for deriving the price we need to know what is the payoff at capital T from the option. Okay. And as I said, we would use no arbitrage assumption. So initially let us construct one portfolio. That portfolio consists of long position in delta shares Okay, delta is quantity, number of shares, and short position in one call option. Okay, one European call option. So we have to determine this C. So short position means we have just sold this call option at this time point. Okay, and we have long position in delta shares means we have these delta shares with us. So at time capital T, whoever is the holder of the call option can force us to sell our share, one of our shares. Out of delta, one share we'll have to sell. Okay. Now, under no arbitrage assumption, value of my portfolio should remain same. First of all, there are two things. We have to worry about two things. First is no arbitrage, and no arbitrage would actually mean that my portfolio should remain riskless. What do I mean by that? It means that irrespective of whether the market goes up or down, my portfolio worth should remain the same. And how much so that would mean my portfolio is riskless. So generally we would try to construct a riskless portfolio. And what would guarantee the no arbitrage thing? My portfolio should earn exactly same amount of interest that any secure investment in a bank would earn. Okay. Things would be more clear when we actually try to solve things numerically. Okay. So portfolio should be riskless means under both this scenario means irrespective of whether the price has gone up or down, my portfolio worth should remain the same. So let us first try to see what are the portfolio worths under two different setup. So I have long position in delta shares and we have seen that ST can be either 22 or ST can be equal to 18. I have short position in one call option. So I cannot decide whether the call option is going to get exercised or not. The holder of the option is going to decide that. Strike price has been given to be 21. So holder has the right to buy a share from me by paying 21 rupees. So when will the holder exercise his or her option? So if the market price of the share is 22, then yes, the holder will think that okay, he or she can save 1 rupee by buying it from me. So call option would be exercised. Okay, so if market price is 22, call option would be exercised. As a result, I'll have to sell one share by getting 21 rupees. So what would be my portfolio worth? I will have delta minus 1 shares, each of rupees 22. Okay, correct? Plus of course I would get cash 21 rupees. Okay, so 21 rupees I'll get in cash and I have delta minus 1 shares because only 1 share has been sold. So delta minus 1 shares, each of 22 rupees. So because 22 is the market price, so my portfolio worth becomes 22 delta minus 1. Correct? Now what happens when ST is 18? So if market price is 18, then the holder of the option is not going to exercise. So call option will not be exercised and worth of my portfolio is 18 delta. Because call option is not exercised, I don't have to sell any of my shares. So my all delta shares are with me and each share is worth 18 rupees. So worth of the portfolio is 18 delta. Okay. So now the portfolio should remain riskless means under both these setups my portfolio worth should be same. So we will equate these two things. So 22 delta minus 1 should be equal to 18 delta. So basically 4 delta should be equal to 1. So delta should be equal to 1 by 4. What does it mean? It means that for every call option I should have 1/4 share in my portfolio. What do I mean by this? It seems slightly ridiculous, but let me try to explain it again. See, we are taking short position in call options. So let us suppose that we are taking short position in 100 call options. Now we are taking short position in 100 call option means at time T we may have to sell 100 shares. Okay, we may have to. Okay, so if the market prices are below our strike price, then we won't have to sell. However, if market price is above the strike price, then we will have to sell 100 shares. Now if I am going to sell 100 shares at time T, I should have shares with me. So should you buy 100 shares at time point 0? Now some people will say yes, you will have to buy 100 shares because then only you can sell 100 shares. But remember, this is May. So we may have to sell 100 shares. I mean, it's not fixed. As a result, investing in 100 shares today may also seem like an unnecessary action. Because if we don't, if the market prices fall below the strike price and we already have 100 shares with us, we are going to suffer a loss. Because these shares are also going to decrease in price. So we are going to suffer loss. So it may not be wise to have all 100 shares purchased at time 0. Hence, how many shares should we purchase to make sure that we don't have risk? So that actually turned out to be, in this particular case, it turned out to be 1/4. So if you have sold 100 call options, today you should buy 25 shares, 1/4. Okay. Remaining shares you can buy only if you need them at time T. Otherwise, today you don't need to buy them. Okay, depending on the market scenario at time T, if you need the shares, buy them and sell them immediately. Otherwise, don't buy them. Is it okay? That is the interpretation of this delta. So this delta shares have to be there to make sure that my portfolio remains riskless. Okay. And the other thing is that there should be no arbitrage opportunity. No arbitrage opportunity means what? Whatever is my portfolio worth at time 0, let us say P naught. So it should become P naught e raised to R capital T. Because this is what would be an outcome if I had invested the same amount in a bank which gives me interest at this rate R. Okay. So P naught should become P naught e raised to RT. So what is the portfolio worth at time 0? At time 0, we said that we have long position in delta shares and short position in one call option. Correct. This is what my portfolio consists of. So long position in delta shares and price of each share is 20 at time 0. So 20 delta. And in call option the position is short. So minus C. So this is my portfolio worth at time 0. So ideally this should be equal to whatever is my payoff at T into e raised to minus RT. Expected payoff I should say. Okay. I'm just writing the same thing. So P naught should become P naught e raised to RT. So P naught should be the payoff times e raised to minus RT. Now we just derived value of delta. So let us substitute that value of delta in any of these. So we know portfolio worth at time capital T. So it is either 18 delta or 22 delta minus 1 and we know both these are equal. So 18 into 1/4. So this becomes 4.5. Correct. I am substituting value of delta. So portfolio worth at time capital T is 4.5. So portfolio worth at time 0 should be equal to, so 20 delta minus C should be equal to 4.5 into e raised to minus RT. Okay. So this delta we know is 1/4. So this becomes 5 minus C equal to 4.5 e raised to minus RT. So my call option price becomes 5 minus 4.5 e raised to minus RT. Okay. So this is the optimal value of the call option price. So you can substitute value of R and T whichever is given. So here I didn't specify T, but you can take, say for example, T to be 3 months. So if T is 3 months, then this becomes 5 minus 4.5 e raised to minus 0.12 into 3/12 and this turns out to be, I think, 0.633. Okay, so optimal call option price turns out to be 0.633. So this is how a binomial tree model works. So what you do is, at any given time point, we consider that there are only two possibilities. Share price either goes up or down. We know the values by which it goes up or down. And portfolio should be riskless. So both up and down movement should give you exact same value of the portfolio. And portfolio should earn interest at the same rate as risk rate of interest. So portfolio worth at this time point into e raised to RT should give me portfolio worth at this time point. Is it okay? So let us now try to derive it using notations. So this was a numerical example. We'll try to do the same thing via notations. So my current share price is S0. The up and down movement, we would denote prices here as S0U and S0D. So U and D are multipliers, they are not subscripts. So U is greater than 1, D is less than 1. And Q, 1 minus Q. You might have noticed Q didn't come into picture here. Okay, so this Q is known as real world probability of going up, probability of stock price or share price going up. But you might have noticed Q doesn't enter into the final equation. Okay, we will see in a slightly detailed manner later. So S0U and S0D are here, and FU, now this is subscript, and FD denote the payoffs from the derivative at time capital T under both these scenarios. Okay, so we have to derive the derivative price F at time 0. Okay, so let us proceed exactly in the same way. So suppose we have long position in, so at time 0 we have long position in delta shares and short position in one derivative. Okay, so my portfolio worth at time 0, so P0 is equal to S0 delta minus F. So F is, say, price of the derivative which we are trying to determine, optimal price. So my portfolio worth at time 0 is this. Now portfolio worth at time T I need to compute. So it would be different under different scenarios. So let us assume that we are talking about a call option. So what happens in a call option? So if the derivative is call option, then if K is less than S0U, means if the strike price is less than the upper market price, then option would be exercised. Otherwise option won't be exercised. Okay, so my payoff from the call option becomes maximum of 0, S0U minus K. Okay, whoever has the call option can get a profit of S0U minus K if it is positive. Okay, similarly, if K is, so we can derive FD similarly. Okay, so FD means in the down position call option will be exercised if K is less than S0D. So FD would become maximum of 0, S0D minus K. Okay. Now, so these are portfolio worths when it goes up and down. So this is PTU and this is PTD. So if we want to maintain a risk-free portfolio or a riskless portfolio, then the portfolio worth should remain same irrespective of whether the stock has gone up or down. So PTU should be equated to PTD. PTU is S0U minus, because we had short position, minus FU, and this is S0D minus FD. I am just emphasizing again, this U is a multiplier whereas this U is a subscript. Similarly, this D is a multiplier whereas this D is a subscript. Okay, and of course delta is there because we have delta shares. So what can I say about delta? Delta becomes FU minus FD divided by S0U minus S0D. So delta becomes 1 by S0 FU minus FD divided by U minus D. Okay. So this is from riskless portfolio. But of course we need to bring in no arbitrage assumption also. So if we want a portfolio to follow no arbitrage assumption, then P naught e raised to RT should become equal to PT. Correct? Portfolio worth at time T should just be equal to whatever was portfolio worth at time 0 into the interest component. Okay. So delta S naught minus F into e raised to RT should be equal to delta S naught U minus FU, and it is also equal to delta S naught D minus FD. Okay. So let us try to solve this for F. So if we try to solve this for F, what do I get? I get, of course, e raised to minus RT. So what I have is, let me just consider this U term first. Okay, it's not U. So I will have F will go to that side. So F equal to e raised to minus RT. Okay, e raised to minus RT into delta S naught e raised to RT minus delta S naught U plus FU. Okay, I am just trying to rearrange the terms. So this gives me e raised to minus RT into, let us now substitute value of delta. So value of delta is FU minus FD upon S0 U minus S0 D. So S0 can get cancelled. So I will have FU minus FD upon U minus D into e raised to RT minus, same story here, FU minus FD upon U minus D plus FU. Okay. And of course this U is there. Delta is not U, so that U is here. So if I try to simplify this further, what do I get? So let me try to rearrange the terms. So I have e raised to minus RT. If I want to take U minus D common, then I will have to bring in U minus D in the third term. So I will have in bracket FU minus FD e raised to RT minus FU minus FD into U plus FU into U minus D, because then only I can take it outside. Okay. So I have e raised to minus RT upon U minus D. So what all I have? So for FU, if I try to combine, I have e raised to RT from here, then minus U from here, and then plus U minus D. All these things for FU. And then for FD, if I take plus sign, then for FD I will have U from here and then minus e raised to RT from here. Okay. So what do I get? get e raised to minus RT upon u minus d, and then from here I have Fu times e raised to RT minus u plus Fd times, e raised to RT minus d, u gets cancelled, plus Fd times u minus e raised to RT. Okay, let me bring that u minus d inside the bracket. So I am left with e raised to minus RT times e raised to RT minus d upon u minus d times Fu plus u minus e raised to minus RT upon u minus d times Fd. Sorry, plus RT, not minus RT. Okay, now couple of questions. First of all, these two quantities, can I say something about them? Means, are they positive? Are they between 0 1? U minus d is definitely positive because u is greater than 1, d is smaller than 1. E raised to RT is greater than 1. So e raised to RT minus d is also definitely positive because d is smaller than 1. The only question remains, what about u minus e raised to RT? So let us try to slightly rearrange things again. So what can I say about 1 minus e raised to RT minus d upon u minus d? Just now I said that e raised to RT minus d is positive, u minus d is positive. Okay. So if I compute this quantity, I will get u minus d minus e raised to RT plus d divided by u minus d. So I get u minus e raised to RT upon u minus d. Okay. Now this means that if I call this quantity as p, this quantity is actually 1 minus p. Okay. And I know p is positive. I don't know yet whether p is greater than, less than 1. If p is less than 1, then 1 minus p is also positive. Okay. Now your job is to check whether p is less than 1. Okay, that's a homework. To check whether p is less than 1. Okay. So this p. So let me try to see what we have derived. So we have derived f. We were trying to derive f and we got f as e raised to minus RT sum p times Fu plus 1 minus p times Fd. Okay, you can actually prove that p is less than 1. So this PFU plus 1 minus PFD becomes weighted mean. So this becomes weighted mean of payoff from the derivative at time t. But I cannot directly call it expected payoff because the probabilities of these payoffs were q and 1 minus q. This p is something completely new. Okay. So this p is known as risk neutral probability measure. So this p came into picture because we were assuming riskless portfolio. Okay. Hence this P1 minus P, this is known as risk neutral probability measure. So P is known as probability of stock going up under risk neutral scenario. Okay. So this is very, very, very important. The real life probability of stock going up and down does not come into picture. What comes into picture is risk neutral probability. Okay. So this kind of becomes expected payoff at time t and you are just discounting back that payoff to make it to get its equivalent version in at time 0. Okay. So this is a completely expected output. Any derivative is worth its own payoff. You just have to discount back. So this is expected payoff at time t under risk neutral scenario and you are discounting it back by this factor. Okay, so this is the binomial tree model for option pricing. There is some more theory involved in here. So whatever I said just now can be written as e raised to minus rt ep f t. So payoff at time capital T from the derivative under this measure P1 minus P. Okay, and this is not same as e raised to minus rt eqst. Okay, so this is discounted value of expected payoff under risk neutral measure. Okay, there is some more theory associated with this, so we will study that in the next lecture. Meanwhile, try to prove that P is less than 1. Okay, thank you.